the chess match. Joe Burrow against Vic Fangio. How's it going to go on Sunday? What can we expect? Fran Duffy breaks it down. Zach Berman, if he can get here on time, will join the conversation as well, coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thursday at 2 o'clock, we are presented by the good folks at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We have Zach Berman in studio today, which is a nice treat for a Thursday. Almost didn't happen, but we're happy to see you. And Fran Duffy. We're going to break down this Bengals-Eagles matchup. Lots to get to, lots of interesting stuff, and of course, we will have Swooper forecasting at the end. And then even after that, a bonus, a little special surprise. Fran Duffy sitting down with one of his favorite people in the world.
It's true.
Charles Davis, who's calling the game on Sunday. So a little extra content coming your way today. Fran, how you doing?
Doing great. No, it's going to be this is a really fun matchup to break down, and I'm glad we have Zach in studio to share. It'll be fun.
Mr. Berman, it's nice to see you. We didn't even have a chance to talk before you got here.
That's on me.
You got here just as the clock was ticking. But I do have to say, I mean, of all the things we've done at PHLY, I feel like the reaction to the fish story is as overwhelming and positive as we have heard.
Well, not all positive. Some of the YouTubers want to report
I actually like that comment from.
Wants to report me to PETA, I feel like.
I thought that was a good comment.
I appreciate anyone who's watching the show and commenting.
Maybe I'll read that towards the end. Do you have news for us?
About the Eagles? Practice yesterday?
No, I'm curious if you have yet learned the names of your fish.
Oh, actually, Emily laughed because she doesn't recall what they changed them to. One is Caitlin. They were Nori and Demo. I'm sorry. Nori.
Nope.
Dory and Nemo. Sorry, Dory and Nemo. What Bo was referring to earlier, by the way, is I believe in punctuality. Tardiness is like a big
Tom Coughlin would be ashamed
pet
of you.
peeve of mine. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm making great time. GPS says to me 105, and then it goes to 123, and so I'm like, I'm not waiting. It was 676, which was just a parking lot. So I went around and I stayed on 76. I got off South Street, and I figured I was just going to shoot up that. But then there was a road closed, and I don't need to give you the whole thing, but I was. It took me way longer than I wanted to get in here, but so that's what you were referring to by almost missed it. As far as the fish, I'll ask Reed tonight what his fish's name is.
Okay. Is there Eagles news?
Yeah. So yesterday's practice, Mekhi Becton is in the concussion protocol. He did not practice. Zach Bond did not practice, shoulder injury. That's a big one to monitor. The Eagles are light on linebacker depth, so we'll see what happens there. He was on the practice field. He didn't do anything in practice, but he was more involved than someone who's like not there at all. Like he was present. So,
and he's as you have talked about, Fran, he is a very important part of this defense because he allows them that flexibility to sort of switch between those odd and even fronts. I'm curious if he misses this game. You know, I guess they would go with Oren Burks there. You know, would Jeremiah Trotter Jr. get the look? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that my guess is that it'd be Oren Burks.
I would guess that, but I don't think it's super
What
exciting.
do you think?
I think Oren Burks.
Yeah.
Someone you could spend
an
a long
8-hour car ride.
My guess is Burks. Now, Dean, in theory, could play both spots. So you could put Trotter at Mike, and and you can put Dean at the other spot. But my guess is Burks.
As we'll get into, the Bengals play a lot of 12 personnel, right? And they're very multiple and varied with their usage of 12 personnel in terms of where they move guys around. And so my guess would be that if Zach Bond were out, that would be a pretty big loss in this game, because you talk about how Vic Fangio likes to be able to move Bond around and change between those fronts. If the Bengals are going to try and play more 12, then not having Bond on the field would limit you in that capacity.
And then the other news is that Dallas Goedert's still not practicing. So that's the big thing to watch there.
Jack Driscoll signed to the active roster.
Jack Driscoll signed to the active roster. So if we thought that spot was going to be for Anaya Smith or a third tight end, they still have a move to do if they want Smith on the 53 this year. Jack Driscoll
Is
takes
this the
spot.
last week that with Anaya Smith, or they have one
Yeah,
more week?
he has until Monday. He has until next Monday.
Okay. Got it.
So
Maybe the Byron Young IR is a possibility.
Byron Young IR, maybe Nick. We'll see if Nick Gates sticks
that's
around.
right.
Now that they have Jack Driscoll
Yes.
on the 53. So a few different things there.
Could use a Dylan McMahon these days, but
I think Nick Gates negates the need for Dylan McMahon.
Well done. Good job, Fran. Yeah, that's a Bo joke if I've ever heard one.
Thank you.
Not much from the coaches and the players yesterday that is newsworthy. Nick Sirianni really dealing with a cough. Couldn't he? I was worried about him, weren't you, Bo?
I wasn't worried about him. I didn't think he was going to die.
I mean, he was hacking up something there. He was
It was a wrong pipe situation.
wrong pipe
Yeah.
situation.
He wasn't. It wasn't a sick thing.
Okay, and then they brought him milk. He hadn't drank milk in 20 years. They thought milk would help with the phlegm or whatever.
No, I think milk is the opposite effect, doesn't it?
I'll defer to you guys.
What happened to this is the week we get to talk football.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Nick Sirianni here, okay? So Sirianni pushed back on the idea that like they're going to be run heavy. I know he said that on WIP. He said it's game to game. And in that regard, he likes the third wide receiver from Princeton on the Bengals, Andrei Iosivas, friend of the show, of course. I thought you would sell that. He did not. And then stuff I'll mix in. Iosivas. Stuff I'll mix in throughout the show. Spoke to Sidney Brown about his brother Chase. Spoke to Jalen Hurts. Spoke to Landon Dickerson. Spoke to fullback. This guy's getting a lot of attention. Ben Van Sumeren.
Palpable buzz.
Yes, palpable buzz. So those were some of the highlights from Wednesday at NovaCare.
It's funny to think about the two players in the NFL who had all this buzz this offseason. Ben Van Sumeren somehow outperforming Malachi Corley.
Was there a palpable buzz about Corley?
There was.
Yeah. He was,
A joke for like 7 people.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Although they have been linked on social media this week, interestingly enough.
Malachi Corley and Ben Van Sumeren?
Yes, I've been getting a lot of Corleys in my mentions in the last 24 hours for this topic, because Ben Van Sumeren has to report as eligible every play. And Dave Zangaro asked him about that yesterday, and he said they looked into changing his number, but it's too late. And so some fans responded, well, Malachi Corley did it last week to accommodate Devontae Adams. So I don't know when the cutoff was or anything like that. But
how did they get around that?
I don't know. I don't know, but apparently Corley, I didn't see this. Did Corley change his number from 17 to give Adams 17?
I didn't know that.
And
my understanding was that was not allowed.
Yeah, so Van Sumeren, who is 57, every time he goes out there, has to report as eligible.
Wow. Can't believe there is an actual connection there. Nicely done. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Corley. Okay, let's talk about this matchup. We are 8 minutes into the show. This is going to be like a 2-hour show.
They got a special permission from the NFL to make the number change.
What?
Yeah, at least according to PFT.
That's bull.
Yeah, that's what.
Aaron Rodgers knows some people.
Yeah, the guy's just like cheating nonstop. He's pulling strings. What is this? I'm outraged. We don't need to. Like, the league itself doesn't need to bend over backwards for Aaron Rodgers just because his team is. He gets to make the rules for the league now too, in addition to making all their roster moves. Ridiculous.
If there's one thing that could set Bo off, it's the minutiae of of small roster machinations like this.
And Aaron Rodgers.
The next thing you know, they're going to be changing the outfit on the Dolphins mascot. It's going to be a whole thing. It's ridiculous. All right, Cincinnati Bengals against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
Let's talk about. I think the big matchup in this game is the Bengals offense against the Eagles defense.
Yep.
I think we will learn a lot because the last 2 weeks, the Eagles defense has looked very good. We still are a little bit unsure how real that is because of the quality of opponent. This is a very high-quality opponent. 6th in offensive DVOA. They're moving the ball nonstop. Their defense has been terrible, but the offense has been very good. What are the specific challenges that this Bengals offense will present to Vic Fangio?
Yeah, the specific challenges start with their stars, and it's very similar. We're going to talk about this Bengals offense, and a lot of it is going to sound very familiar for what we say about the Eagles. It is a star-driven group. You have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins, and it is really the offense is funneled through those three. Paul Denner Jr. With the Athletic does an outstanding job.
Fran was on, or Zach was on with him today.
Yeah, great conversation.
Made a great point in his piece in the beginning of this week, I think, coming off the game against Cleveland, where if you look at the last 2 games, which were wins, the Bengals go 2-0 against the Giants and Browns. Again, we talk about the comparisons between the Eagles and the Bengals here, but non-Higgins and Chase wide receiver pass catchers. They went 4 for 46, 4 catches, 46 yards against the Giants, 1 for 2 yards against the Browns. Whereas Chase and Higgins went 12 for 149 against the Giants and 9 for 137. And so, it's something like, it's a huge target funnel right now to those 2 players. And to an extent, it's working. But I know there's a lot of frustration right now in Cincinnati in terms of this offense. They're looking for who that third pass catcher is and who's going to step up into that role. And honestly, while those numbers over the course of the season, they're 6th in DVOA and all these numbers, they're ranked really high.
Drive, yeah.
But the last 2 weeks, they've kind of struggled to move the ball against the Giants and against the Browns. And so while the offense on the whole has looked excellent, Joe Burrow, he throws for 5 touchdowns against the Ravens, and they go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, and all the success they've had over these last 2 weeks, defenses have kind of had a bead on what they're trying to do from a pass game standpoint. And they're not a team that uses motion. They use more than the Eagles, but not at a high level. Joe Burrow does not like play action. They don't like to go under center. It's not a super creative offense in terms of like their route concepts. It's a very basic type of pass game. We've got better guys on the outside than you do.
Yeah,
let's let them win.
It's very, very, very similar. Now the quarterbacks go about it much differently. But I think that a lot of the issues that Eagles fans have and some Eagles media have with that team, it's very similar out in Cincinnati.
Although the results are also a little bit different just in terms of like the run pass splits. Like the Bengals passing game 5th in EPA per dropback. The Eagles passing game 14th. The Eagles running game 4th in EPA per rush. The Bengals running game 25th in EPA per rush. So they are as uncreative as it is and as similar as that is, it is still working for them.
Yes.
No, I was going to say as far as a clear difference, Fran's opponent notes are outstanding. They're on the site right now. And the third sentence here is fearless attacking middle of the field.
Yes.
So that's a clear difference between Burrow and the Eagles.
And the ball comes out very fast with Joe Burrow. He's operating in the quick game as well as anybody in football right now. Whereas we know with Jalen Hurts, like he will hold onto the ball a little bit longer and make those plays on the move. That has not been Burrow's forte over the course of his career. He is making more plays late in the down. Certainly over these last couple of weeks, we saw that 55-yard touchdown run he had against the Giants on a man blitz a couple of weeks ago. So he's making some more of those plays this year, but still overall, he wants to get the ball out fast. And so again, that is the difference. While there's, I think ideologically. Yes, there you go. Ideologically, there are a lot of similarities between these two offenses. The overall deployment and the execution from the quarterback position is really the big difference there.
Now, when I hear that it is a relatively uncreative offense and they're leaning on just the fact that Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins are better than the guys that the other team is going to have covering them, to me, that sounds like a great opportunity for this Eagles defense and a nice test of the theory of the way they went about building it, that right now they've got 2 corners on the outside playing at a very high level.
Yep.
Whether Joe Banner may disagree with that or not, this is an interesting test for Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay.
Yeah, because look, the reality is you can't double those guys every single play. And there are examples last week where the Cleveland Browns said, we're going to go single coverage on Jamar Chase, and then Chase beats him for a touchdown. And then they go and they double Jamar Chase in the next high leverage situation, and then Tee Higgins beats him for a touchdown in man-to-man. And so ultimately in this game, the Eagles will need Slay and Quinyon Mitchell, who will both be targeted in this game. They need them to step up in those high leverage situations. I do do expect that there are going to be times when they do have a designated double team. The Eagles have done a good job so far this season on those designated doubles. We've seen a couple against neighbors. We've seen them really over the course of the season against the Saints. We saw it against the Bucks. We saw it, the Falcons. So I do think we'll see it. But we're talking 5, 6, 7 snaps total in the game. So I think overall, you're going to need those guys to be able to step up. Slay on the outside and certainly Quinyon Mitchell. But to me, like the first key to the game for me when I in my opponent notes for the Eagles offense, you can't have what happened against Tampa happen in this game where the ball just comes out so fast, negating the pass rush. There's all this space in the secondary. You need the back seven to operate the way that it did this past week against the Giants, where you're closing in all that space on those routes, matching routes really, really well. It's not that that Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins line up only on the outside. They move those guys all around. And so you really need everybody to make sure that they're holding up their end of the bargain on the back end.
So something that I'm not totally buying the Eagles pass rush right now.
Yep.
Because I think part of it has to do with the fact that they played Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, and really 2 beat-up offensive lines. This is an offensive line that has spent draft picks and money, but they've been missing guys. They've been moving guys around. Joe Burrow, Vinny said he holds the ball for a long time, but he is someone who can get rid of the ball quickly, and he's been efficient this year. Do you think the Eagles pass rush can neutralize this group?
The big thing will be, I think that Joe Burrow can hold on to the ball at times and certainly will make those plays. But right now, over the course of these last few weeks especially, he's been getting the ball out very fast. And also, it goes back to like those, remember the conversations we had with the Tom Brady Bucks where it's the ball's out fast, but it's still going downfield. He's got the 4th highest ADOT on those quick throws. So I do think that it will be more incumbent on the back seven to hold up as opposed to the pass rush. But I agree with you that I do have a little bit of a doubt with the pass rush over these last couple of weeks. The Eagles right now are like one of the best in terms of sack rate. So like they're getting home but the pressure rate is like middle of the pack. And so they're capitalizing on those opportunities. Now
feels unsustainable.
Yes. And so you worry that you'll kind of regress a little bit there. That said, Joe Burrow, he's not getting pressured because the ball's getting out really fast. When teams are pressuring him, the pressure to sack rate is very high. So it's kind of working in the Eagles' favor that team is the way it is as well.
2 things that I've been thinking about with the conversation that we had a lot in the offseason about the reason for hiring Vic Fangio is like bringing competency to the defense, right? Like raising that floor and having a grown up in the room. And I was going through it, and one thing that stands out to me is, over the course of the season, the Eagles are 8th in man rate, right, 32%, and 27th in blitz rate at 19.6%. Those are sort of what you might expect. However, if you break it down game by game, on both of those things, in like the way that you are putting a game plan together, they have had 3 games above league average and 3 games below league average on both of those things.
Right.
Last 2 weeks, for example, we saw them have like 2 extreme opposites in the way they went about playing the Browns and the Giants. I think it's nice to see that Vic Fangio is able to and willing to be flexible with his defensive strategy and put a bespoke game plan together. What kind of game plan do you think he will put together for this game?
It's my number one thing I'm most interested to see. And because I honestly, I went back and forth on it as I've been thinking about it the last couple of days. I think that to me, I think it will be one where they do mix it up. He said on Tuesday? Yeah, he said on Tuesday that, his plan going into the Giants game wasn't that it was going to be a lot of zone coverage, but he saw how the guys were playing and he said, look, they're doing it well. I'm going to keep it rolling. There's always the chance that happens again. I do think in this one, the big thing, I was actually really surprised by this stat that I found. The Eagles right now, the number 1 team in the NFL, they have the lowest completion percentage against on non-pressured passes. So when the defense doesn't create pressure, they have the lowest completion percentage again. I would not have guessed that, especially with that game against the Bucks game. I would have thought that would have set it, even if they were really good in the other games, that would have set it off. But that scenario is something that's going to play out here in this one. And so, again, I think you kind of lean into those back. Just because they're playing off coverage doesn't mean it has to be soft. I think regardless of it's man or zone, I think that you're going to need those guys to be able to hold up one-on-one. I think that they're going to mix it up. I think that you're going to see some man and some zone early and just see how those guys hold up. The big thing, though, is in the past, they were a lot more siloed in terms of how they use those receivers. Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins, he's outside the numbers. It's mostly vertical routes, back shoulders and digs and go balls. They're moving Tee Higgins into the slot more. They're moving Jamar Chase into the slot more. They're moving the running backs outside, the tight ends outside. They're moving those guys around. And so if they want to play man, Quinyon Mitchell following guys inside, Darius Slay following guys inside. That has not been what we've really seen. And so the Bengals may have to take the Eagles out of some of those looks. That's where the chess match really will commence.
If I can interject real quick with one thing that will help Vic Fangio's game plan, the Eagles are practicing at the moment. Zach Bond is practicing today.
Okay, there you go.
On the blitz front, team's not really blitzing Burrow a ton. I think he's 24th in blitz rate against, according to the great Dana Stillman.
Probably because the ball's coming out fast. I think that's probably the big reason why. Typically, when the ball's coming out fast, you don't want to send extra pressure just because it's probably not going to get there. And we know that the Eagles' blitz numbers, wherever they're listed for most services, it's lower than reality just because of how often Nakobe Dean is blitzing and guys are falling out. So it depends on how many of those services count those sim pressures as blitzes or versus not. But I would expect that we'll still see Nakobe Dean go home. At the end of the day, though, this offensive line is pretty pedestrian, especially the interior three. This is another matchup where you would say the defensive tackles for the Eagles should be able to win some of these battles against Cordell Volson, the left guard, Ted Karras at center, and then Alex Kappa at right guard. At tackle, Orlando Brown, he's coming into this game with a calf injury. He left the game last week, and it sounded like he was going to be up in there, but it looks like he's going to play. But coming off a calf, like that's something to be concerned about. Amarius Mims is the starting at right tackle right now, first-round pick this year. I mean, he's an alien the way he's built, the tools that but he's still coming along. The inexperience definitely is showing there, and so that's two big matchups. If you can force Burrow to hold on to the football, I think there are matchups to be won up front.
The other thing I was thinking about with the competency on defense, big picture in terms of the things that we talked about in the offseason, and I wonder what you think about this, Zach, is the defensive assistant coaches, right? Like we talk about how well they've coalesced into passing things off last week, right? And internally, we heard that a lot, that they did not believe they were getting enough out of the position coaches on defense last year. And part of that is because they were late in the hiring cycle. And so Vic Fangio brings in a bunch of guys who he has worked with before, who are very highly regarded at their positions. The defensive backs coach, the defensive line coach, all these guys. It's possible. This is one of those things where we really have no idea. But it seems like that's something that could be paying off.
It's a good point. Christian Parker is someone who I've heard good things about since they hired him. Christian Parker, of course, is the defensive backs coach. He's a young coach who's considered an up-and-coming guy. And you see the way some of these young defensive backs have developed, in particular Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Linebackers, Bobby King, who has experience there. He's an experienced position coach, and he's worked. Zach Bond hasn't played that spot full time until he came here. And Nakobe Dean's playing the best ball of his career. And then on the defensive line, Clinton Hurt, who's been a defensive coordinator, is an established coach. He's dealing with just a different group, guys who are playing the most playing time of their career, and they are developing. Beyond the frontline guys, we speak about Moro Ojima, we speak about Thomas Booker. These are players who are having, I say, best seasons of their careers. Their careers aren't long, but you're seeing positive development with these position coaches.
And so, when push comes to shove, how do you expect the Eagles to do on defense on Sunday?
I mean, if you watch the Bengals on the whole and you say, okay, this is obviously it's a very good offense. Burrow, Chase, Higgins, everything we talked about. I do think that Chase Brown has developed into a little bit of an X factor for them. He gives them an explosive element to that run game.
Breaking some tackles, yeah.
Yeah, he's.
You know what he runs like to me?
Sidney Brown.
He runs like if Sidney Brown was a running back.
Right. They're built. They're built
honestly,
exactly
it's a half of a joke, but he runs the same way.
They're twin brothers. The resemblance is uncanny. But I think when you look at Chase Brown, he definitely is giving them some juice that they didn't have previously. Was the backup coming into the year and has slowly taken over more of a share of the backfield touches. And I feels now that he is their primary ball carrier there. Zach Moss is more of like a role player and pass protection guy. I think Chase Brown is more of the guy that you're looking at there. The other X factor for them is the rookie tight end Eric All, who has been so much fun to watch.
I like an Eric All.
Oh, he is. Because I thought he was okay in college. He has been a monster as a blocker.
Shame on you for doubting an Iowa tight end. What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, he started at Michigan.
More of a Michigan tight end.
Right, more of a Michigan tight end. There you go. I think when you look at the way they're using Eric All, they're moving him all around the formation, and he has been a monster as a blocker on linebackers. And that's why they're leaning more into 12 personnel with two tight ends on the field. And so he's going to get matched up one-on-one with Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond, and he has had killer blocks every single game this year. So that would be something I would watch for as well.
Just a few Sidney Brown, Chase Brown notes because it came up here. I spoke to Sidney Brown yesterday. I asked him what like is watching film and reading the scouting report weird this week, and he said, "Yeah, you look at the chart and he sees his face." He says, right, because they have the same face, so they have the player's face. He said at Illinois, he watched all his brother's snaps. Like sometimes the defensive players aren't watching the offensive players, but he said he was clued in on the game plan. Like he always knew the offensive game plan, but he's never had to dissect his brother for weaknesses. So it's been odd in that regard for the two of them. There's a lot kind of that goes on with this game with them. You know, when the schedule came out, Sidney Brown knew they were playing. He didn't know when the game would fall. But when he saw the date, when he was going to get to play, he knew he was going to get to play. It
wasn't in September.
Yeah, it wasn't in September.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's like a really big deal back.
Sounds like he's a minion. Yeah.
Sidney Brown. Yeah, maybe so. It's a really big deal back in their hometown, up in London, Ontario, because he said that like the media there is going crazy with this, and so I'm excited to watch this matchup, find out more.
What is that? The Sun?
The Toronto Sun?
Well, I was thinking London.
Oh, I don't know if that's London, England. I believe the Sun is there in London. Is that the London, Ontario paper as well? I don't know. But maybe Sidney Brown, Chase Brown will come up later in the show as well.
Oh.
You guys see the look on his face?
It sounds like a swooper that's not going to hit.
Yeah, probably not, actually.
All right. Well, if you want to be unlike Zach and actually hit on your proposals, we have a friend to talk to you about in just a second. That's right. It's Bet365, our friends, the presenters, where it's never ordinary. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, and they live stream over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and today they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. You want to open an account? Now's the time. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Fran, it's about the time of the week that I ask you who's going to win the football game tonight.
I don't like Minnesota to cover. So if we're looking at
you're buying into the everybody the week after they play the Lions.
Chris Long's, yes, I'm buying into that. And the Rams have a little bit of juice. We'll see. It sounds like Puka Nakua's coming back. It sounds like Cooper Kupp is making his debut tonight. Or not his debut, but making his return from
Maybe
IR.
a showcase game for him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Stafford, too, depending on which rumors you believe.
There you go. Well, if you want to take their advice, do it on Bet365 and blame them if you lose. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
I always enjoy speaking about our friends at Empire Today. Excuse me, I feel like Nick Sirianni right now.
It's milk.
Yeah, because with Empire Today, you get to shop at home convenience, the right products for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats. Who doesn't when you're that good? But the copycats can't beat Empire Today on quality, service, need, and speed. So they advertise low-quality products that Empire Today simply does not carry. Empire Today won't promise you the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that the Empire Today folks don't want in theirs. Empire Today, they keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. They have a philosophy there, which is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. There's a virtual floor designer, which I always love to have because it's technology and it's a good way to utilize technology. Shopping for floors at big box stores can be frustrating. You might talk to someone today who was working in plumbing yesterday. They don't know anything about flooring. Well, at Empire Today, flooring is all they do. So they live and breathe flooring. So you can be confident that you're getting honest, upfront advice. You can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when you use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/PHLY for details.
All right. Let's pivot to the other side of the ball.
Okay.
In this matchup, the Eagles offense against the Bengals defense. Everybody watching the show sort of knows the state of the Eagles offense at the moment. So let's talk a little bit about the Bengals. 24th in EPA per drive. They have been slightly better against the pass, but not super great. 21st in EPA per dropback, and then 28th against runs in terms of EPA. What do you see on the Bengals? Is it as simple as like Trey Hendrickson and everybody else?
In ways, yes. Hendrickson has been awesome this year. He's always been a really good player, a guy that I've liked for a while, but he's playing at the best level of his career right now, leading the league right now in pressures and pressure rate off the edge. He crushed Cleveland last week. He had 6 pressures, 2 sacks, 4 quick pressures in the game under 2.5 seconds. So when you look at Hendrickson, honestly, that's the biggest mismatch in this game on either side of the ball that's in favor of Cincinnati. Him versus Fred Johnson is the one thing that honestly concerns me going into this one for the Eagles. They will have to have a plan for Trey Hendrickson. The big thing, and we say this a lot about defenses, but this is a big one here in this one. You don't want to get behind the sticks against Lou Anarumo. You don't want to get into those one-dimensional type of situations where you're going to only drop back because one, obviously, we know that the last couple of weeks, as we've talked about, Jalen Hurts kind of struggled in those situations. But also, just in general, that's where Anarumo can really get creative. That's where all the disguise comes out. They had a great sack last week against Deshaun Watson, where they showed one high and they rolled out of it and they went into Tampa 2, and the Watson didn't know where to go with the football and ended up getting sacked. Those are the type of things you see from Lou Anarumo and this defensive scheme. They were getting no pass rush early on outside of Hendrickson, and what we've seen over the last few weeks is that they've really upped the blitz volume over these last few weeks, and so they're blitzing at a higher rate than we've really seen from them in recent years, and so that'll be something that you have to plan for as well. But again, the big way to kind of negate that or negates that would be to make sure that you stay ahead of those sticks. Don't be in those one-dimensional situations.
And whereas the Eagles have a lot of young guys on their defense, this is a defense loaded with veterans. Sometimes on the wrong side of their career.
At times.
Yeah, yep. But, Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, B.J. Hill, Sheldon Rankins on their defensive front, all second, third contract players. Yep. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt at linebacker. Their secondary has some younger guys, but really the defensive front is much older.
Yeah, they've missed on some draft picks. That to me is like the big thing with them is that when they went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, they were running hot on draft picks and on like bargain basement free agent types. They did an outstanding job of really filling out that defensive depth chart. And since then, they've kind of run cold. They've struggled at the safety spot. They drafted Miles Murphy in the first round. He has not shown up. They drafted Dax Hill. He struggled last year, then switched positions this year, then got hurt. So they're struggling right now defensively to really fill out the top end talent. Hendrickson is a blue chip player, and then after that I was talking with Joe Goodberry, who does an outstanding job covering the Bengals, and said, and he put it great. He was like, look, there you have Hendrickson, he's the blue chip guy, and then they want 2 or 3 of those role players to emerge as a really good impact starter on a weekly basis. And they can take turns who those players are, but you hope that 2 or 3 can elevate their level of play on a weekly basis. And right now, they're just not getting it consistently enough.
And so if the Eagles in this game want to do what they've done the last 2 weeks and say, we're going to line up and run the ball down your throat,
can do that.
They can do that this week.
Yeah. It's funny because like the raw numbers, you look at like, yards per carry and things like that, paint this defense in a pretty good light. But then when you look at like EPA per rush, success rate, all of those kind of like next level metrics, it does not paint this defense in a positive light against the run. They're small in the interior.
25th EPA, 26th rush success rate.
It's not a great run defense from that standpoint. So I think when you look at it, there will be opportunities there. And even when you watch them on film, they lack the beef on the interior. They're kind of missing like that thumper downhill. Jermaine Pratt, Zach mentioned that they're getting a little bit older at certain spots, and Pratt, he can't run anymore. He does not move as well as he did previously, but he's still like a bigger guy. I would expect a little bit more from him downhill. He's not really that presence. Logan Wilson is a really instinctive player, but again, not like that type of presence downhill where he's defeating blocks and getting to the football consistently. So I think that they're also missing more tackles on the back end at the safety spot. That said, they're the best tackling football team in the league right now. They're missing less tackles than anybody in football. So, and I think that's more just, again, on the front seven. But, again, the success rate, EPA per play, all that stuff against the run, I think they're pliable there from that standpoint.
Although, I would imagine, and I have a piece up today on allphly.com with some thoughts on the team, and it's
you're a diehard, much better rate now than it was before. If you get the introductory rate,
and I was on the show yesterday with Jamie and Rich, and I pushed back on the idea that like there could be this run first team, and I bet if Nick Sirianni were here today and we asked him and we were having a conversation about the matchups he likes, he would talk about his wide receivers on the outside. Because I think that is an inviting matchup here. I don't know if they're just going to lean into running the ball when you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith against what, D.J. Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt.
Right. So when you look at those two players, Cam Taylor-Britt is the starting right corner typically. D.J. Turner, the starting left corner, both former second-round picks. Turner is really athletic. He's like your smaller kind of matchup guy, and he's had really good flashes. He's also had 2 downfield DPIs. He had one last week against Cleveland. He had another one 3 weeks ago as well. He's still struggling to find the ball at times. Cam Taylor-Britt, he's really big and physical and long. He's really strong. He's a fun, competitive player, but he's been really volatile this year. He had
that sick interception against Mahomes.
Ridiculous interception. It was like week 2 against Mahomes on the back shoulder play against Xavier Worthy. But he's also been he got benched a couple times this season. He has been vulnerable over the top. And so I think when you look at both plays, you would say, yeah, like I kind of like that matchup for those receivers. It just gets back into like, all right, this is how we're going to live going up against those two guys. Because Cam Taylor-Britt, while he can be attacked, he can also make you pay.
Is it Cam Taylor-Britt or Taylor-Britt Cam?
It is Cam Taylor-Britt.
Britt, I wonder if he's a fan of this Brown Brothers.
Yeah.
It's a long walk.
Trying to put that one.
It's a long walk. It's
okay. A good note, by the way, from Fran. A good note from Fran that Cam Taylor-Britt is one of 2 players that's allowed 300-plus receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in coverage. The other one was Deontay Banks, who the Eagles saw last week.
Right. And we're fine going after. Just staying in that secondary. So it's the Bengals were terrible at safety last year. They went back and they completely revamped the room. They brought back Von Bell, who, from what I understand, is like coach on the field, of the same mind as Anarumo. They're in lockstep there. So he's like, from a communication standpoint, that's his presence, but he is like teetering on falling off the cliff from a physical standpoint. So he's a guy that can be attacked. They signed Geno Stone in free agency from Baltimore. Stone, it sounds very similar to the C.J. Gardner-Johnson signing, where they signed him hoping that he was going to be like this post player and make these impact plays in coverage, and he hasn't done that. And he's also like missed a lot of tackles coming downhill. And so, that he's been disappointing from that standpoint. That said, he left last week's game with an air cast with a shin injury. It sounds like they're optimistic that he might play. But if he doesn't, they have a kid, Jordan Battle, that they drafted in the 3rd round out of Alabama last year. And Battle has been a good tackler. He's their most physically gifted safety. But he came in this year reportedly like out of shape and like fell out of favor with the coaching staff and was like a ghost on that defense for the first couple of weeks, and now has slowly worked his way back into their good graces. And so
Halloween season.
I mean, it's time to it's the spooky season.
To the point of what you were saying, Zach, about Sirianni might push back on their identity as a running team. Let's find out. This is another, just like on the other side of the ball, we're going to learn a little bit about this defense. Sure. I'm curious to see what they actually do. And if you say we like our options on the outside with AJ and Devontae Smith, you can still do that if you're running the ball most of the time. Like, it just means that you're funneling all the targets to those guys, which they do. And so I'm just, again, curious to see what kind of game plan they put together, what level of trust there is in Jalen Hurts. Is he going to throw the ball over the middle of the field? All that stuff. Let's see it again this week against another interesting test.
I'm curious what you guys think of this. I asked Jalen yesterday if they're too reliant on big plays. Okay. And his answer to that was, you think about identity, but you talk about identity. That's a big part of our identity. So I think some people got to accept that.
Yeah, I actually don't necessarily agree that they're over reliant on big plays, because I think like the explosive runs are carrying a lot of that.
That's
like,
true.
Mm-hmm.
If a certain percentage of their passes were all downfield passes, and that was an aberration for the rest of the league, that might be a concern. I think it's we talked about the fourth down touchdown to A.J. Brown. We're both like, oh, here we go again. And then they score. And it's like, great. But it seems like it's uncreative at times. It's like Jalen Hurts' favorite button to press is just a one-on-one ball on the outside. But I think in all for the offense, I think it's silly to say like they shouldn't be trying to get explosive plays.
No, and this is what I wrote. It's a good thing, right?
Yes.
And these super explosive plays are a really good thing, right? Because it's hard to go 12, 14 plays. Sometimes when you can get downfield in one, it's like scoring on a double or scoring from second base is easier than scoring from first base, right? Now that said, I think that the success they're having is obscuring some of the other issues. When they're so bad on third down, right? They're bottom third of the league in third down this year. And you look at the struggles they have in their first quarter. It's a stat I brought up the other day. Half of their touchdown drives this year have a play of 40+ yards in it. So they're not sustaining drives the way you want to see.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's not that the offense is structurally over-reliant on big plays. I think that they're standing relative to the rest of the league, and like the amount of points they're scoring is obscuring the fact because of the big plays that on a play-to-play basis they are not that good.
It's the analogy that we've used a couple times in the show, where it's the baseball team that's over-reliant on the long ball that doesn't play the small ball game well, and then if the home runs aren't there, then you don't have anything to fall back on.
Jalen also gave a very curious and one of the more bizarre answers I can remember to a question about the whether on third down he knows that they're going to go for it on fourth down or not.
Yeah, I asked him this, and because one thing that like some of the coaches said, I asked Kellen Moore this, and he said you kind of know you have two shots at it, right? And Jalen gave this saying, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You can see it on social media if you want.
I still don't really know.
But there's a part where he says,
about.
I'm just going to read this one part. There's a component where we're told not to worry about certain things, and a component where I feel like I need to worry about it, even though I'm not supposed to. He said, so coach goes for it on fourth down because he trusts us and believes that we can make a play. How healthy that is, we go out there and make it work typically. It kind of sounds to me as if like he wants more say in their third down plays. I don't know. I mean, it's one of these, he said at the time, and it seemed like a passive aggressive answer. And then I listened back. I was like, is there something there that I'm missing? And I was like, no, I heard it correctly. It just seemed like an odd answer to that question.
It's a weird answer to that question. Yeah, reading through the quotes, it was a long road to get there.
Yeah. But then like the longer he talked about it, the less it sort of made sense. Yeah. We probably will lose ourselves if we're trying to dissect too many Jalen Hurts quotes word for word.
He's also not interested in this Joe Burrow storyline at all. I mean, I'm not writing that this week. I know some others are. They were in the same draft class. They're at the Heisman ceremony together, right? No, he would not even like acknowledge it. Basically, he's like they met before. He spoke to a lot of guys at the Heisman ceremony. He respects Joe Burrow. Period.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one other part of the Kellen Moore press conference this week that you thought was interesting as well.
Yeah, I'd have to pull up the exact quote, but he volunteered on his own just about the it was a question about
the protections.
He brought up the protections and just like how we've got things to clean up there from a responsibility standpoint.
Which for Kellen Moore in a press conference was
very, because he usually doesn't give you anything.
Yeah, he's they beat us.
Yeah. And the things we have to clean up, and from an assignment standpoint, I believe that was the exact. I don't want to butcher the quote and misquote him, but I thought that was interesting as well.
Okay. Swooper's coming up in just a bit after this break. Hey, you, right there. You got a leaky pipe? Well, if you do, the good folks at Ace Hardware Home Services are here to help you out. They are around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person to do the fixing. Got an air conditioning issue? Heater issue? They got a person for that. From plumbing to heating and cooling, the folks at Ace Hardware Home Services have you covered with trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services, we're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
We'll keep the home improvement discussion going here. We're going to talk about our friends at CJAM Construction because you have those small issues that pop up on a week-to-week basis, but then you also have those big projects. And maybe you and your partner have discussed getting a bathroom redone, getting the floors on the second floor done, or redoing a kitchen or the deck, whatever it is. CJAM Construction, they have got you covered. A family-owned home remodeler specializing in decks, bathrooms, and flooring. Their goal is to help their clients alleviate the challenges and frustrations that come with home remodeling. They are running their spooky season sale until this Thursday, October 31st. So you have to act fast now. This deal is almost up on their CoreLogic luxury vinyl plank flooring. Prices are starting at $249 per square foot with savings up to 35% off retail. Taxes and fees are extra. CoreLogic flooring is 100% waterproof, formaldehyde-free, and features an elegant, natural wood look and feel. Be sure to mention PHLY when you call in. That number is 856-329-2933. Again, that's 856-329-2933. About your next home project, see their full selection of luxury vinyl plank flooring and learn more about the products and warranties on their website, cjamconstruction.com/flooring.
The quote from Kellen Moore,
okay,
just to close it up, I asked, now I'm laughing because the transcription says that I asked, how did QB Jalen Hurts enjoy setting the protections? I didn't use the word enjoy. I would never use that. And it makes me think of have you ever seen the news reel clip of the guy going, oh, so she's been enjoying penis a little bit more lately.
Excuse me?
The use of enjoy is so bizarre.
Yeah.
What clip is that from?
It's from a newscast, from a nightly newscast.
Yeah. Our feeds are different.
Oh, this one goes
that's
back.
A long way away.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I didn't ask enjoy, but Kellen understood what the question actually was. He said, yeah, he's done a good job. Every single week is a completely different challenge, whether it be structurally, schematically, personnel. The challenge for all of us is just each and every week. We've got to readdress the protection aspect of how we're going to handle the opponent. So those guys have premier players. Obviously, 97, being Dexter Lawrence, is one of the best in the league, and it was a challenge for us. Not explosive, but for him, that's an admission. Yeah.
Yes. And there are lots of ways that you can try and get extra hands on a Dexter Lawrence lining up on the inside. It's a different kind of issue when it is an edge rusher, like they will have in Trey Hendrickson this week. My guess is you're not just leaving Fred Johnson one-on-one consistently. And so they're going to have answers for that.
But that's contra Jeff Statlin's MO.
Yeah, but you know what? In years past, we'll hear from Charles Davis on this topic a little bit later. But in years past, you see like the plan against the Micah Parsons. Hey, we're going to do a bunch of stuff. Throw a bunch of stuff at him. That's when you have Lane Johnson going up against Micah Parsons. So Fred Johnson on Trey Hendrickson.
Are they related?
No,
Lane and Fred.
Fred and Lane, I don't believe are related. Okay. Yeah.
I just want to ask you guys one thing real quick that's been on my mind before we get to Swooper. Okay?
This could be anything.
No, it's
You're gonna go to Gladwell tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to Gladwell. I got some sleep last night.
So. How was the other night?
Larry David?
Yes.
He's good.
Did you ask any questions?
Pretty good.
Nice.
He's lying. He thinks it was disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna rip on LB here. I mean, I'm not going overboard with it. It was fine. It was fine. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Malcolm Gladwell tonight. So my question is this. If we did the game this year that Bo and I did last year, where we draft teams from the available rosters, are more players in the top 10 Eagles or Bengals this year? And I just asked that because you started this conversation by talking about how these teams are similar. And certainly, I mean, even if we said top 6 or top 5, like I wonder, would you rather Burrow and Chase and Higgins, or would you, I'm curious to see how that would split up.
I think if it was top 6, I think it's pretty split. I think when you get into like top 10, top 12, I think that's when it starts to tilt.
I think 9-10 goes Eagles. Yeah. I think the top 8 is probably split evenly between the top 4.
Yep, agree.
I think in this game it's probably something like Burrow 1, AJ Brown 2, Chase 3, Lane 4, Hendrickson 5, Devontae, Higgins,
Tanner
McKee 10,
Thomas Booker, right?
Yep. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the super chats before we break out Swooper. We've got a couple from Aaron Wildman. Is it Widman or Wildman? Widman. Let's call him the Wild Man.
Wild
anyway.
Man.
The Wild Man, Aaron says, birthday wish fulfillment. Are the Birds D able to be so versatile that it becomes elite? Are the Birds offense holding them back for whenever? Well, I think this does speak to the thing that I was talking about with Vic Fangio, that he has shown he's willing to play different styles game to game. So I don't know. It's all theoretical. We got to see them prove it, but there is reason to believe that this defense can get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, and this is a great litmus test going up against not just a good offense that's been productive this season, but also one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And we know that is always the way that some will judge a defensive coordinator is the game plan that you can put together going up against an elite quarterback.
He wants to relitigate. That's what he's thinking.
I wasn't relitigating. I was just bring up a point.
Oh, Moneybag CDP. I feel like we got to do something for CDP.
I agree.
Zach, flash him a nip real quick. He says, you guys said Jalen's last game was his worst of the season. ZB's BF Nick Wright said it was his best out of his last 15 games. Who should he believe?
I mean, you should believe me, not Nick on this one.
Fighting words. Let's get Nick on the show.
I didn't say that was his worst of the season, though, did I?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Fran
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely bottom two. I thought Tampa is it the Tampa game? I'm trying to
when
think.
he didn't have AJ or Devontae?
Yeah, that's a good point. But no, I mean, the best of his last 15 games. Come on, I mean, Nick's great. Yeah, I love Nick. Nick and I go back, but I would disagree with Nick on that.
I think the only case you can make on that front is that it's not the way that Jalen played. It's the Eagles covering for him and putting a game plan together that hides him, if that's the case you want to make.
There were also people that said that throw to AJ on 4th and 3 was one of the best throws of Jalen's career. It was a good throw, but Jalen's made some awesome throws in his career.
That's better than that.
I know, no question. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought Jalen played well against New Orleans. Honestly,
yeah,
that's a game that jumps to mind. He played well the back stretch. So the last 15 games. So what? You're going during the whole slide last year. Yeah, he wasn't good during that slide, but I'd have to go game by game. But no, I can't imagine this Giants game was the best he's played in his last 15 games.
And then Ed Double D Wright going, who would you have shadow Jamar Chase?
They haven't really done the shadow
They're
thing.
Stay on sides,
I think they'll stay on sides and just be, all right, if he's on the right, then Slay will have him. If he's on the offensive left, then Q will have him. That would be my guess. And I don't think that they'll shadow into the slot. I think if he goes into the slot and they're playing man, then Cooper DeJean would have him. In that scenario, though, I think there would probably be some kind of check into some kind of zone coverage. Would be my guess. If and when he does go into the slot. We've seen Chase out of the backfield this year, so they've been creative. That's the one.
The Eagles
level.
did that once with Devontae Smith.
Yeah,
and never again.
Well, there's been the one ounce of creativity we've seen from the Bengals this year offensively has been that they've moved those guys around more and it kind of changed up the way that they're using both Chase and Higgins.
Very
new
DL,
offensive coordinator. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say a very DL anti-Dan Pitcher podcast today. You don't seem very high on Dan Pitcher.
I think the overall, the Bengals, zeitgeist is not super high on him either. You said that word months ago, and it's just been stop. I can't stop saying it now. Yeah,
he's driving around.
Yeah.
Zeitgeist. Okay, sorry. All right, everybody ready to swooper?
Were you guys good with someone asked about the rules of Swooper, and I put that my understanding of the rules. Did you see that yesterday?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was.
I imagine he'll object to something in there.
Yeah, right.
Totally
I mean, you are not the one who gets to decide what the rules
I wrote
of Swooper
my understanding of the rules. Dane is approved.
Okay, let's see if I can find it on your Twitter feed, because there are people who are coming in late. What is it? Where is it here? I think this about covers the rules for Swooper Storecasting.
It required a notepad.
You do not. Yeah. Okay. Object. The object of the game is to buy the most correct predictions surrounding an upcoming Eagles game. Preparation. All 3 participants each submit 3 predictions for the upcoming game, which will be eligible to be bid on by all players in a live auction. Our professor Deniz also creates 3 submissions, equaling a grand total of 12 potential predictions to bid on each week. That's well covered.
Thank you.
Predictions may directly involve an on-field play, involve some type of action during the game or broadcast, and have absolutely nothing to do with what actually happens on the field. All correct. Gameplay. In the beginning of each week, all 3 participants start with 24 turkeys to use for bidding. Turkeys can carry over from one week to the next In some pre-designated auctions, participants may borrow turkeys from next week. Okay, you got all that correct.
Okay.
The players go around the horn submitting their items for auction, one item at a time. The players submit them you got all this. Scoring, whoever secures the most correct predictions in any given week is awarded 1 point. There's a two-way tie, half point, three-way tie, third of a point. Whoever has the most points at the end of the playing season is declared the winner. Yeah, you got it.
There you go.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
You don't have here that the playoffs count as
Playing season.
well, they count their extra points.
Oh, see, I forgot about that one. There you go.
All right. Well, to restart where we reset where we stand. Fran in the lead with 2 1/3 turkeys, 2.33. I'm in second place with 1 5/6, 1.83, and Zach is all the way down at 5/6 with 0.83. Zach, you have 30 turkeys to use today with 6 left over. Fran, you have 7 turkeys left over, so you have 31 turkeys with which to bid today, and I have 10 turkeys with which to bid after I got absolutely demolished.
Have you
by
thought
the
about
game
that?
theory.
How many times have you thought about that over the last week?
Not as much as I've thought about just existential dread about the next couple of weeks. But
Understandable.
That Jaguars game's really looming over your head. My goodness.
Yeah, I know. Your head is in the sand. We all know that you're pretending not to know anything that's going on in the world.
No, I'm very aware of what's going on in the world. Why do you think that there was so much traffic today?
I don't know. Why was there?
I think the vice president was speaking at the Warwick.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think that's good or bad?
I think it's great. It's part of our I believe very strongly in elections and that's not a controversial opinion. Everyone
would
should
you say a controversial opinion?
No, everyone should vote. I mean, that's not controversial either.
Nope.
Like the most important thing
I actually don't know that everyone should vote. There's a lot of people who I don't think should vote.
No, we're all very I will push back
I
on that.
agree,
We're all
I
very
agree with
lucky to have. We're all very fortunate to.
Everyone should want to vote. There are people who I hope don't.
Okay. Let's do Swooper.
All right. Today's order is me, Zach, Fran, Deniz. Make sure you hit the like button, become a diehard, all that good stuff. Let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. Okay, my first submission. The game ends in a tie. And obviously, you must have this as well.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. No, obviously, last time these teams played in 2020, Dougie P punts in the end of overtime to secure the tie. They also tied all those years ago with Donovan McNabb. So this is and I was thinking about this. Do you think there's something to this? Tell me this, Zach. What is a Bengal?
It's a tiger. Yeah.
A tiger.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to it.
They are more susceptible to ties because tie is in the name.
I don't think it's that.
And then it's a tie, and then you go, it's a tiger, and so they tie, and then they go, grrr.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's that. But I did say to Paul Denner and Jay Morrison today that ties are like my least favorite thing to cover. You don't know how to like contextualize a tie. You know, it's just.
I think I disagree.
And then they gave the story.
I think that's shame on you. It's a rarity. It's more interesting to cover.
It's like the players don't know how to react to it, but then they give.
But that's what's interesting.
Yeah,
that's what makes it interesting to
yeah.
cover.
But then they gave this funny story about how they covered a tie a few years ago in London. And,
see, they love to tie.
Yeah, and
the Tigers.
And everyone in the stands like knew exactly how to react. Right? Like, this is very normal for them.
Yeah, that's good.
Since 2008, no team has played in more ties than the Bengals.
I think there's something to it.
Yeah, I do not.
There have been the Eagles and Bengals have tied twice since 2008. There have been just 11 other ties across the NFL over that span, and Cincinnati has played in 4 of the 13 total.
So 6
ties.
of 13.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible at this point to argue that there's not a correlation here.
The Vikings and Packers are the other team that has participated in multiple ties over that span. That's all from NFL Media, by the way.
I mean, I think we've solved it. Tie. Grr. I will start the bidding at 1.
You can have it.
Yeah, I'll let you have that one.
Yeah.
Sold the bell.
Fantastic. Zach, you're up next.
Okay, I'm going to keep throwing this item out there, and one of these days it's going to hit. The Eagles score in the first quarter, and I will start the bidding at 2.
Sure, I'll go 3.
4.
4 to Zach.
They score any point in the first quarter?
Any point in
Any
the first
point in
quarter.
the first quarter.
5.
5 to Bo.
6.
6 to Zach. 6 to Zach going once.
7.
Oop, 7 to Fran.
8.
8 to Zach. 8 to Zach going once.
You can have it for 8.
8 to Zach going twice. So
I mean, if they go 8 weeks without it, that is.
I know, but it's such a good bit.
It really is.
They could keep winning and still
Yeah,
not doing
exactly.
it. It really would be very funny.
Exactly.
All right, I'll go with my first submission here. Jalen Hurts runs for at least 30 yards in this game. Now, the Bengals have allowed more rushing yards to the quarterback position than anyone in the NFL.
Good stat.
Fran
brings it.
Hurts, his rushing log this year, 3 out of 6 would have hit. That's why I picked 30. 33 yards against Green Bay would have hit. 85 yards against Atlanta would have hit. He wouldn't have gotten against the Saints, 25 yards, just 20 yards against Tampa, 33 yards against Cleveland, 22 yards against the Giants. So an even 30. We will start the bidding at 3 to go with the stay with the 3 theme.
4.
4 to Zach.
Go 5.
5 to Fran.
6.
6 to Zach.
7.
Oop, 7 to Fran. 7 to Fran going
I want to
once.
spend it this early.
7 to Fran going twice. 8 to Zach.
I'll go 9.
Oh, 9 to Fran.
It's yours.
Sold to Fran for 9.
Good one, Fran.
Sold.
Thanks.
You're both at 22 turkeys.
First Dane is.
All right. The first Dane is submission. Here we go.
All right.
The Eagles either recover a fumble on defense or score on one of their first 2 drives on offense. They are yet to do either this year.
You couldn't
So,
decide which one
Zach,
to do.
You can
That's
double.
great.
You can double dip.
Wow.
Dana's was banging the recover on fumble last week as well.
Poo platter.
Here we go. I'll start the bidding at 3.
4.
5.
5 to Fran.
6.
6 to
7.
Zach. Ooh, 7 to Fran. 7 to Fran going once. 7 to Fran
So
going
one of you guys has to bid. This is worth more than
8.
that.
9.
9 to Fran.
I like how decisive he is. All right, I once
Nine.
a quarterback once told me, "Be right or be wrong, but be decisive." And I've
Sounds
always
like bad
Fran.
advice.
What else did Eli say that day?
that was not Eli.
Sounds like Ben Roethlisberger to me.
No, I've never.
Mike Kafka.
No.
All right. 9 to Fran going once.
Julie had enough of that.
9 to
Higgins.
Fran going twice.
Okay.
It's a good one though, Fran.
All right, sold to Fran.
I just gotta save my turkeys.
We know.
All right. My next one. We all know that this weekend's a big one for Zach. He's got the wedding,
Mm-hmm.
brother's wedding in New York on Saturday
No,
night.
it's in Philly.
No, it's in Philly. Why did I
Yeah.
think New York?
He lives in New
New
York,
but
He
the
lives-
wedding's
yeah,
here. Okay.
yeah.
That's easier. Okay. Wedding here, Saturday night, early flight.
Yeah.
To Cincinnati. You're not worried about it.
And early, no, not at all. Early, I'm not worried about the flight.
No,
I'm
I'm not worried about making the flight, but the
I'm worried
timing
about
of
making the
getting to
game. Absolutely, yeah.
Right. What are we
This is-
looking at timing wise?
The flight lands at the Cincinnati airport at 10:25.
10:25.
The game starts at 1. The airport.
No, are you
is-
sure it's 1 o'clock local time and not 12 o'clock local time?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Okay.
There's no time difference in Cincinnati. And then the drive is typically 20 minutes, but on game day, it could be 40 minutes to an hour. We'll see. But I just can't afford any delays. I'm confident.
Now, are you going to be like valet level ZB sprinting off the
absolutely.
plane to the
And
car?
so it's one of those smaller planes that you have to check the bag at the gate. I'm not going to do that. I'm bringing because I'm dressed in what
Yep.
I'm wearing next day. I'm doing the show from Cincinnati, so I need clothes the next day. But so I'm packing just a small bag so I can put it over top, and so I am sitting very close to the front of the plane.
You're not going to jump ahead of
I was
people,
just
though,
going to
are you?
ask. I was just going to ask that.
I
Are you
will
getting up early?
I will not jump ahead, people. Okay. Actually, if I can give a quick pet peeve,
Please.
my quick pet peeve is when is when you're if you're on the flight with a tight connection, and they say over the speaker, "Can you please stay in your seat until everyone with the tight connection goes?" And you know for a fact, not for a fact, not all these people have tight connections, but they're taking advantage of essentially like the carpool lane.
Yeah, we live in society. Come on.
That bothers me. Like, there's some people in there where I'm like, "Can you show me your ticket?" Because like I know, I know you're not coming from 28D and getting off here and just going home. That's not right. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the item here is an Eagles wide receiver in this game has more receiving yards than the minutes before game time in which Zach tweets his photo from the press box.
Oh, so I'm in control of this.
You are.
Well, he's not. You're not in control because you still need the receiver to come through.
Sure.
Yeah, but if he wants to wait until 12:59 to say, here's a view of the press box.
Do the American flag.
But we know he's not going to do that.
I'm going to the flags up there. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to want to acknowledge that
But
I'm there.
Yes.
I could do a stadium photo, though, to do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's on me. I should have said. I should have done the phrasing differently. Whatever your first tweet from the press box is.
Good call.
No, but I should operate with integrity here. So I will operate with integrity. I'll do it when
I'm counting on you to operate with integrity.
I will do it when the only reason I wouldn't put it up once I get there is if I have to rush to do the pregame show. If I'm late, like I'm not focused on Twitter, I'm focused on the pregame show.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I will start the bidding at 2.
3.
3 to Zach.
4.
4 to Fran.
5.
5 to Zach.
You're hoping you're going to get there about 60 minutes before the game. That would be a win for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 6.
6 to Fran.
7.
7 to Zach.
8.
8 to Fran.
9.
9 to Zach.
10.
Oh, 10 to Fran. 10 to Fran going once.
I mean, there's a chance I could get there like 90 minutes earlier. 11.
Oh, 11 to Zach.
I'll let you have it for 11.
Okay.
Sold.
Zach, I feel like you've changed your strategy a little bit. You're willing to go bigger. This is this advice that you've gotten.
Did you talk to Gladwell last week or this week?
No, tonight. And I'm hoping I get a chance. I'm getting a book as part of the presentation, so I'm hoping I get a chance to have him sign it. I won't ask him to write. I hope this brings back good memories, though.
What is it? What's the?
That's what I write on all my books. What if on his book?
I thought you should ask him to write Go Birds.
Oh, no, I wouldn't dare.
That's the one thing you're not allowed to write, but you could have him write it.
Yeah. I saw that in the town hall last night, actually. The Go Birds thing. That's funny. Yeah.
Okay. Zach, you're next.
Okay. So this is actually it's on the same vein of the Eagles receiving yards. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith combined for more receiving yards than Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins. And I'll start the bidding.
Is a classic of the Zach genre.
Yeah. I'll start the bidding at 2.
3 to Bo. 3 to Bo going once. 3 to Bo going twice.
4.
4 to Zach.
How many turkeys do I have?
You have 11. I wish, you know what I didn't do as a submission that I wish I did is the thing we talked about, that the first pass of the game is thrown to Devontae Smith.
That would be
that's a good one.
18.
Yeah.
Right.
4 going once. 4 going twice. Ooh, Zach's going to get it.
Yeah. The fact that it was a Zach submission is what.
That's what scared you.
Yeah, that's what scared me off.
All right, over to you, Fran.
All right, so I went back and forth on my phrasing for this one.
Okay.
But with your disdain for PFF, I went with a more generic metric. Yep. All right, so Quinyon Mitchell gets at least 2 what I am calling ball disruptions, which is just a combination of pass breakups or interceptions. So combined.
He touches the ball twice.
Yes.
On incompletions.
Yes. The only problem is that, so like his play last week where he had the drops interception, that did not go down as a PBU.
That's silly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. That's what I mean. So I almost went with forced incompletions from PFF. I think that's more encapsulating, but I know that you have that issue. So rather than stir up that fight, Quinyon Mitchell gets at least 2 ball disruptions in this game.
I think we should count dropped interceptions.
We're going to stick with a
all right,
VBU
all right,
interception just for the sake of argument. So he had 2 versus Green Bay. He had 1 versus Atlanta. He had 2 versus New Orleans, 1 versus Tampa, none versus Cleveland, none again versus the Giants, which is silly. But would have hit 2 out of 6 games so far this season. Can he do it in this one? We will start the bidding at 2.
Can't let him have it for 2, Bo.
2 to Fran? 2
3.
to Fran? Oop, 3 to Zach.
I don't like this one, but I can't let him have it for 2.
3 to Zach going once. 3 to Zach going twice.
I'll do it for 4.
Oop, 4 to Fran.
You can have it for 4. I need to preserve my turkeys.
Sold to Fran for 4.
Okay. Sold. And is number 2. Jalen Hurts scrambles for a first down against drop 8 coverage. The Bengals drop 8 on 9% of opponent dropbacks, second most in the league.
Who starts the bidding?
Whoever wants to.
2.
2 to Zach.
It's very specific.
2 going once. 2 going twice. Sold to Zach.
Okay.
That's 5 turkeys.
Can we get a turkey recount
Yes.
real quick?
Zach has 5 left. You have 9 left, and I have 9 left.
Okay.
My turn. Bo wins as many items as Jahan Dotson has catches in the game. And I will start the bidding at 1.
As many, so it has to be equal to.
So not things that hit, but things that are on my roster.
Your roster, yep. You've already got 1.
Yes.
And if it's 0,
It's a
it
good
doesn't
one.
count as a win. It's just
Well, because I already have 1.
He already has
Yeah.
If
1.
I had 0, then it
yeah,
would.
yeah,
But yes.
yeah.
Then right now I have 1.
yeah. Okay, fair enough.
But if you only have 1 and he catches 2 passes, then that does not count. Or is
Correct.
It
has to be the
has
exact
to be
same
the
number.
exact same
Yes.
number.
1 to
You're
Bo.
starting the bidding at 1.
I started the bidding at 1.
1 to Bo.
1 going
1
once.
to Bo going once.
1 going twice. Sold. All right.
So
That's 2.
That's a smart
I
one.
cannot
That's a-
afford to get
Yeah,
anywhere.
that's a smart one by you. Because that's good.
All right.
All right,
Zach,
let's go
no,
to.
Zach.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, my computer's
easy.
dead, but
Yeah, I know.
I recall this one here.
Okay.
Sidney Brown tackles Chase Brown, and
good
the
one.
peg here is that they're twin brothers. Playing this game.
They look exactly alike.
Yeah. But no, so Chase Brown.
It's very funny that this was the tease of, well, there might be something more to come.
So a few things here. I need my people to stop calling me here.
Big flex.
Oh.
Jeffrey, we're on the show.
So Nick Sirianni said in the press conference that he hopes Sidney Brown has the chance to tackle Chase Brown.
It's a weird thing to say.
Yeah. Sidney Brown and Chase Brown have been talking about this game. Chase Brown, in addition to being their he's emerging in their top running back, he's also a kick returner for them. Now, Charlie Jones had a big return last week, but I believe Chase Brown has the most kick returns this season for them. So Sidney Brown, even if he doesn't play defense, has a chance of doing this on kickoff return.
Now, is it a solo tackle or he can be involved
And
in a tackle?
he has to be involved. He has to be involved in a tackle on his brother.
By the
Okay.
stat services?
By the stat
or-
services. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how
by
I
stat,
read it.
yeah, by stat services.
Okay.
I'll start the bidding at 1.
1 to Zach.
Mr. Lurie, please give me 10 minutes.
Go Birds.
One
to
going
Zach.
once. 1 going twice. Sold. to
Okay.
Zach Berman. A man who loves his brothers.
Yep.
You deserve it on the weekend of your brother's wedding.
Actually, that's who was calling me. Was Nick.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nick,
a wedding-
get your head in the game, buddy.
Yeah, wedding talk.
It's probably about my speech.
Oh, how many speeches are there going to be?
I don't know, but I know I'm speaking.
Are you the best man?
Well, I think his brothers are, but I'm speaking at the
You
rehearsal.
think?
I'm speaking at the rehearsal dinner Friday, so
Okay,
I'm not getting the top billing.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah,
Who's got the speech on wedding night?
Alex and Jenna. Yeah.
Okay.
As a fan of comedy, are you a fan of comedy in the speeches that?
Yeah, but I do a combination of like emotional / comedic.
Got
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't read the speeches.
That makes it difficult to write, but
No, I mean, I don't read the speeches.
that's important. Yeah.
speak relatively extemporaneously. I mean, I have an idea of what I'm going to say, and then
Okay.
I just let it flow.
Oh my God.
one sentence in front of the other.
Yeah. And I try to
Yes.
make them all connect.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. You sound very practiced.
Oh, I know what I'm going to say. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Can you give us a little tease?
A little T. Well, she might be watching. I mentioned the exact date that I met my future sister-in-law, which sounds kind of creepy. That I know the exact date that I met her.
But it was the day that it was the day that the Eagles
Has nothing-
released Philip Hunt.
Has nothing to do with the Eagles. The Eagles actually didn't do anything on that day. Fortunately, they were off. But it was the day before I proposed to my wife.
Oh,
There you
Yes.
go.
there you go. All right,
Nice.
That's nice.
Congratulations.
It is your submission, Fran.
All right, let's go with Jalen Hurts' favorite topic. The broadcasts on CBS shows either video or pictures of the college football playoff matchup from the 2019 season between Jalen Hurts and Oklahoma and Joe Burrow and LSU. Just talking about the game does not count. It must show the visuals from that game. Now, it could be during the game, pregame, it could be warm-ups, it could be a post-game handshake, whatever it is, but it's got to be visuals of the two guys from that game. That is obviously the last time these two met on the field as starters. Now, Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow were both on the team in 2020 when the two teams met during Burrow's rookie year, but Jalen obviously was a backup.
And that's, by the way, is my logic. I was talking this to, there's a different reporter who asked me why I thought Jalen didn't want to play along with the storyline. Like, does he dislike Joe Burrow? And I'm like, well, that game did not go well, and I don't think he wants that game brought
No, it
up.
did
to
not.
me. Yeah.
I think you and I watched that game together. I think that was the Shrine Bowl.
I thought the Shrine Bowl was the Trevor Lawrence national championship game.
You might be right. You could be right.
Or maybe
Could be right.
Maybe there's two different years.
Yeah.
And one of them was LSU. One of them was LSU.
I feel like it was
Yeah,
that. I feel like that was the game. It might have been
right. That might be right.
the thigh picture
Yeah,
day.
it might have been.
Yeah.
Now, this is extremely sketchy and reeks of insider trading given your connection to Charles Davis.
I mean, of all the things I would add, well, first of all, actually, no. Because Julia was on the call with Charles Davis and can vouch for she was
Don't
on the
make
whole
her
entire
party
time.
to your scheme.
She was on the
Your
call the
sordid
entire time.
scheme. You
Julia-
came in here last week talking about how all the moves that you've been setting up, like you're Mr. Chess Man on Swooper. Don't think you're pulling one over my eyes.
Julia was on the call the entire time.
Does she also have access to your phone and all the morning texts that
Would
you
you
and
like
Charles
to
are
do you want to
sending
go through my
together?
text message history between myself and Charles?
I think that would make for great content.
I will put the screen grabs on the show.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. Your text with Charles refer you and Charles.
I thought this would be
Great.
a good one that Zach would enjoy.
Yeah, I would. I'm just pretty low on turkeys right now. To be
Where are
honest
you
with
starting the bidding at?
I'll start the bidding at 2.
2 to Fran.
How many do I have? I have 4.
Yeah.
I don't want to borrow from next week. I know that.
Dana's coming up next. This
Yeah.
is the last one. 2 going once.
3.
Ooh, 3 to Zach.
I'll do 4 because that takes
Ooh.
takes Zach out.
Oh,
You got it.
all right.
All right, so going into the last one, how many turkeys everybody have?
You have 5.
Yep.
Zach has 4. I have 8. All right, Julia.
All right. We got the rule page first.
Okay.
A Dutch auction.
Oh,
Oh, it's a classic.
man, this is a good one.
Julia begins at
pressure.
25 and slowly counts down one turkey at a time. 25, 24, until one of the players yells, "Swooper!"
5.
That player wins the item and pays the last number that Julia said. Players can borrow turkeys from next week to bid.
I want to say I've been involved in a few of these Dutch Dutch auctions. I want to make sure I'm Dutch auctions. And
What did it sound like it's gonna say?
and I've never I've never done this in person.
Fran's listening.
Yeah.
Fran's
all,
listening.
all of our Dutch auctions were over.
What did you think he was gonna say?
We're over StreamYard. So we've never actually had to say Swooper at the same, in person. So this is actually a first for all of us.
Good.
What did you think he was gonna say?
He's been involved in many Dutch ovens.
Have not.
That's not hard to believe. All right, so we all understand.
You find that hard
countdown
to
to
believe.
25. And everybody can borrow from next week. Fran, again, you have 5. Zach, you have 4. I have 8. Let's see what the item is.
The Eagles win the game. All right. You ready?
All right, everybody ready?
Let's do it.
Go ahead, Julia.
25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Swooper.
Whew. 6 for Fran. Ooh. That was exciting.
Very dramatic.
Yeah.
That's a good win for you, Fran. Zach, I was hoping that you two guys would tie this week, but I'm afraid that it looks like Fran's going to win based on these. Well, we'll see how it plays out. All right, I have the Eagles and Bengals tie, and Jahan Dotson finishes with 2 catches. Zach, the Eagles score a first quarter point. The Eagles Eagles wide receiver has more receiving yards than the minutes before the game you arrive. Okay.
No, the minutes before the game, I tweet the photo.
You post your tweet.
Yeah.
So that's 2 likely ones. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith outgain Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins. Nice coin flip.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts scrambles for a first down against drop 8 coverage. And Sidney Brown tackles Chase Brown. Solid. I think your expected return there is about 2.5.
Yeah, I probably should have gone a little higher on the Eagles win the game, but
That's
I
okay.
want to conserve my turkeys.
Fran, Jalen Hurts rushes for at least 30 yards. The Eagles either score a point on their first 2 drives or recover a fumble on defense. Quinyon Mitchell has 2 ball disruptions. There was footage of the game, during the game, of the matchup between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow, LSU, Alabama, and the Eagles win the game. Actually, I think, Zach, you got an early edge here, I think your expected return here is a touch ahead of Fran's.
And I'm carrying turkeys over to next week.
Yes.
I have -1.
Yes, I think that's important.
You're not missing that. Well, yeah, but it's a disparity of 5 turkeys. It's not a big deal.
All turkeys matter, Bo. Okay? You want me to get that PETA guy on your case?
The phrasing there could have been
Yeah,
a
I
little
don't
better.
know that I want you doing all lives matter.
The phrasing could have been a little bit better.
No turkey is more important than the other turkey. I don't know.
I disagree with that. Let's read the comment from the other day because I thought this was a good comment. People loving the fish, but a nice comment here from, let's see.
And I read every comment. I just want everyone to know I appreciate your comments.
I do
read
too.
them.
Yeah, Fran, you feel like a Berman. Yeah,
As well as the iTunes comments. I read that. I read the Reddit forums. You name it, I read it.
All right. M. Brett says, this will probably make me sound like a PETA freak, but I got to speak up for the fish owners out there. I was also unaware of some of the things ZB mentioned, but my wife had a betta fish named Laszlo and 3 catfish. She's unfortunately allergic to cats and dogs, but loves being a pet owner. They've traveled with her from home to home across the country for many years. She cleans and refills their tank every 3 weeks. They sit in our reading nook, and we both really enjoy their company. Zach, I know you're jealous of the reading nook. Recently, Laszlo died because he got trapped under a ramp she had just built. She was heartbroken and even cried for him. If you can believe it, the house felt empty without him. Eventually, we went to Petco and picked out a replacement, a spunky red and blue fish who she named Ranger after Ranger Suarez. If you want to get a cartoon goldfish you can watch die in a clear bowl, win one at the county fair. If you want to teach your kids to be empathetic and responsible pet owners, listen to the pet store. There's a reason people that work there use the term adopt a pet and not buy a pet. Come on, man. I'll probably get made fun of for this comment, but if it makes one person feel better about loving their pet fish, I'm good with that. Anyway, Todd Bowles is right. Jalen Hurts can't read a defense to save his life. Go Birds.
So I just want to be clear. I'm not anti-fish. I'm not anti-pet. I think it's great. We're taking care, and I teach my kids quite a bit about empathy and responsibility. They might be the only 7 and 5 year olds who hear the term empathy like every day, basically. Like we talk about being empathetic. I think
fired at every other parent in the world.
I think so. I think I was ignorant to the cost of fish ownership. I wasn't anti-fish ownership. I mean, once they told me you can't have it in a fish bowl, I didn't get the fish bowl. I could have just gone on to Amazon, gotten a fish bowl, and said, sell me this fish, right? So, yeah, I didn't do that.
That would have been psychotic.
Yeah, I could have put the 2 betas in the cage and let them duke it out, but
you're not a monster.
That's my point. I did everything she told me to do. Matter of fact, I think what my exact comment was to my wife when I called her up on the way home from the fish store was, I think I just got played by the employee there, right? It's like when you go shopping somewhere and they give you all the add-ons that you don't actually need, I felt that's what happened to me.
Well, that doesn't go along. I mean, so you're still doubting that these things are necessary.
Some of the things, yeah, some of the things. I mean, I don't think you need a tank that's like, the size of that TV right there.
Off screen that no one can see.
Speaking to you guys here. A tank,
yes.
Yeah. So.
Going back to the names, there was a lot of reaction to Catherine being the name. A sneaky good name for a fish, though, because Catherine Beta-Jones. But I know it's not a beta fish.
Oh, okay.
It's the only thing that
it is a beta fish. So
no, I didn't get the beta.
You got
because they're in the same cage.
That's right.
They're Dalmatian fish.
It's not a cage, though.
Dalmatian fish. Nice.
Yeah.
Cage for fish would be bad.
Yeah.
Call him Spot.
No, it's I should know Reed's fish's name. It was supposed to be Dory and Nemo, but they changed it. So I'll figure it out. I'll report back tomorrow.
Okay. All right. That will do it for this portion of the show. Make sure that you are a diehard and all that good stuff. Check out allphly.com. Stories up there from both Fran and Zach. But stay tuned to now for an interview between Fran Duffy and Charles Davis, who's going to be calling the game on Sunday. They get really deep into how often the broadcast plans to show footage of the Alabama LSU game. And it's
Oklahoma
really
LSU game.
Oklahoma LSU game, sorry.
It's okay.
And all that good stuff. So that'll do it for us. Enjoy the rest of the broadcast. We'll be back at 2 o'clock tomorrow with Zach and the Professor, Dane is, to talk about all the leftovers that we have ahead of Eagles, Bengals, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
Well, joining us now on the PHLY Eagles podcast, the voice of Madden NFL from EA Sports, the voice you will hear on Sunday's broadcast, Eagles, Bengals, my friend, Charles Davis. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fran. Appreciate it. Yeah, before my partner gets mad, I'm one of the voices.
Yes, of course.
And now they've added more, which is good. Some really recognizable people. But to be on with Brandon Gaudin all these years, I've been pretty lucky guy.
Well, I always get excited when I see, all right, who are the slate of teams that the Eagles are going to play in the AFC? Because then it's just an excuse midseason for me to be able to catch up with you, both on camera and off camera. And this week is one of those weeks. Eagles, Bengals. Obviously, this is a team you're familiar with. And so I do want to start there on that side of the football. You look at this Cincinnati Bengals team, obviously some ups and downs over the course of this year. What's your general vibe on this team? Obviously, their win-loss record doesn't speak too highly because of those preseason expectations. But where are you at right now with Cincinnati?
One, we're still, all of us who follow the NFL, how is it that they start so slowly every year?
Yep.
And excuses before, Joe Burrow's health being the main one, but this year he was healthy. So they still started 0-3.
Sure. Yeah.
And opened with New England at home and lost that one. So that's always the puzzler for everyone because they're too talented to start that way. Watching the offense, we know they can go off at any time. I mean, they lost a game to Baltimore this year where Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdown passes and they just looked the part.
Yep.
Still don't run it a heck of a lot. I know Mixon's not there, but they really like Chase Brown. They got Zach Moss, but that's just not their thing. They'd rather pitch it out there to Chase, pitch it out there to Tee Higgins, who, by the way, has changed his game a little bit. I think you've seen Fran. He's not just a jump ball guy now. He's not just a downfield, beat you up, box you out, go get it. He's running routes underneath and catching it and giving us some yards after catch. It's really weird. His yards per catch are down, but it feels like he's a better target.
Yeah.
It's
interesting how that works, right?
You know, it's a very strange thing, and he's actually getting more balls thrown his way. But they can go off at any time. We know that. Defensively, they've struggled. Lou Anarumo is one of the best coordinators in the game, but when you don't have a defensive line, which he did not have, they were pretty decimated. Last couple of games, they've started to have it, and I think last game was the first time they had all the guys they projected back to play. And lo and behold, in that ball game, linebackers Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, both double-digit tackles. You keep them clean, they can go get people. Secondary's been a little bit of a struggle, giving up some bigger plays than you might expect. But I feel like they're the type of team that can round into form. But the funny part is with them in Philadelphia, they both played the same people the last 2 weeks. They both played Cleveland and New York Giants. Both won. But I think this game is the game that everyone around the league goes, okay, whoever wins this one, we feel pretty good about again. We think they're good. They're not going to get enough. They're not going to get much credit for Cleveland and the New York Giants, and I'm not doing that to cast aspersions at either. But neither one is that great. And I'll leave it with this: Cincinnati, their 3 wins this year. The teams that they beat are a combined 4-17.
Yep. No, it's a really good point. And honestly, like going into every matchup, there's always a couple things where I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm excited to see like what the coaching decision is in terms of the game plan. And for this game, for me, I want to ask you about Vic Fangio, and this is a coach that you've obviously been watching for a long time. You know, you were at Fox previously in the NFC and San Francisco and Chicago. You make the move to CBS in 2020. That works right in concert with him moving over to the Denver Broncos. And so I know you've done a lot of his games over the years. What's your take on how he's going to handle Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins in this matchup? Because it feels like 9 out of every 10 balls goes to those 2 guys in this offense. It's very similar to the Eagles in that way. You're Vic Fangio. Like, how do you feel like he's going to try and handle this matchup?
Wouldn't surprise me at all. You know, Vic is the king of quarters coverage, right?
Yeah.
So, he's going to do that. He's going to do a lot of cover 6. Could throw some 8 at you. You know, they play a lot of off coverage, Fran. Okay, like 70% of the time they're going to be in off coverage.
Yep.
In this one, wouldn't surprise me at all if Vic said, okay, Chase, Higgins, I got a corner for each of them, but I also have a safety or a nickel for each. I wouldn't be surprised they double and say, okay, show your hand, Cincinnati. Who else do you trust?
Right. Yep.
Because Andrei Iosivas, the kid out of Princeton, who's had kind of a hot start, 4 catches in the last 4 games.
Yep.
Okay, Charlie Jones, who's their kick returner, and you and I both watched him coming out of Buffalo, Iowa, and Purdue. And he caught 100-plus balls, I think, that last year at Purdue with Aiden O'Connell as his quarterback. Yeah. I think he's got like 5 or 6 catches on the year. Okay, so is the tight end position going to get some of that? Can that eat up some of it? And if so, who's it going to be? Because remember, they've been trying to figure out who that pass catching tight end is for a long time now. They've tried a few different, it hasn't really worked. But Grant Calcaterra has played pretty well there lately. So that could be, I'm sorry, I got Calcaterra with the Eagles. Wrong team. But Drew Sample has been over there, much more of a blocker for them. So can a guy that Philadelphia fans would know because he's native Pennsylvania, Mike Gesicki, can he now be that guy? And earlier in the year, he put up 91 yards against Kansas City. So I really feel like Vic's going to say, I'm going to deal with your outside guys. Show me your hand on who you really want to trust and go to and make them start hurting me before I get anywhere else. The other part is Orlando Brown, tackle's got a bad calf, may not go. Vic might throw a few things his way just to see what's going on because the pass rush has really increased in tempo in the last couple of weeks. So he may throw a little something on him there. And you and I both know he doesn't like to blitz a whole lot.
Right.
That doesn't mean he's above it if he finds an advantage.
Yeah, and the Eagles took advantage of a backup left tackle a week ago in New York, and we'll see if they have that opportunity to do that here in this game. I do want to go back over to the other side of the football. We talked about Lou Anarumo and some of the issues they've had defensively. Obviously, a lot of injuries early on. It felt like, look, a couple years ago, they go to the Super Bowl. They had this hot run, and Anarumo was known as one of the top defensive coordinators in football. What is, in your mind, what is his mission statement as a coach? And then why isn't that not coming to fruition? Is it all just basically that pass rush is just not there? Has it been injury? What's your mindset right now with this defense?
I think of something DJ Reader said to me when he was in Cincinnati. He's like, oh man, Lou loves us all, but those guys in the back end, those are his babies, man. And I feel like what he's telling me is the game's going to be played from back there forward.
Yeah.
That's where it all goes down. Well, you can do that really well when Von Bell is playing really well and Jesse Bates is next to him playing really well. That's where they controlled the middle of the field with those safeties. And then the corners that they had was Awuzie at that point, right?
Yep.
They had guys that they could do stuff with. Well, since that time, that whole secondary is transformed. Remember, Nick Scott was there last year, and they mentioned him because he couldn't tackle well in the open field. Von Bell was in Carolina last year. So they lost that leadership that was back there. Jordan Battle, the rookie out of Alabama, is a good player. He ended up having to start 7 times. They never got the continuity that they wanted back there. Was Dax Hill a corner? Was Dax Hill a safety? This year, Dax Hill was a corner, and now he's out for the year with an ACL. DJ Turner, built like a nickel, is playing outside corner for him and having to start out there. So they're trying to get everything in relative concert on the back end. Because Cam Taylor-Britt he looks the part. When he's on his game, he plays the part. But he's given up some big plays this year. And I think that's probably driving Lou a little bit crazy. But when Cam Britt is on it, now that's a tough cover for you now. That's a big man, strong, physical, makes plays on the football. And that's what they're kind of counting on, him rounding into form, because the defensive front now has all their people back. And by the way, who's blocking Trey Hendrickson anyway? Nobody.
No, and honestly, that's the biggest mismatch, matchup that I'm most concerned about. If I'm the Eagles, going in, you got to make sure that you handle Trey Hendrickson. Fred Johnson's over there at left tackle. To me, what Trey Hendrickson does is the kryptonite for Fred Johnson. He sets up his speed to power rushes so well. He's so technically sound. He can win in a multitude of ways. So that would be my biggest concern if I was the Eagles going into this game.
Agreed. And that means, how do you want to handle helping Fred Johnson? Because the idea of you leaving Fred Johnson one-on-one, no coach is going to do that in this situation. Your best left tackles in the game get help when Trey Hendrickson's out there.
Yep.
So you're not going to have your backup swing tackle. Hey, Fred, can you handle him so I can run some exotic stuff over here?
Yep.
Kellen Moore is not going to do that. So are you bringing the extra tight end over to spend time with him? And after that, he's back staying in. We're not going to jet him or scat him out. We're going to keep him in to keep an eye over there. Are you going to run some extra tight end formations to make sure he has the everything kind of muddy for him to try and get back to the backfield? Going to do a number of things to try and keep him that way. Plus, you occupy him. You always occupy the best defensive ends, meaning you run the screens, you run the draws, you run plays at them, so they can't just get comfortable with the idea of chasing. Because when they chase, they usually wreak havoc, all right? Because not many people can slow them down. But if you run things at them where they have to think about it, slow themselves down a little bit. Heck, I can't just rush the quarterback. Here comes another one of those screens. That's the type of thing that you're probably going to get out of Kellen Moore in this one. Not all the time, because you don't want to run it so much that you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
They're going to make plays, but enough to make them angry, chip away at their timing. I remember seeing a game a few years ago when Josh McDaniels was the offense coordinator in New England, and they were on that great streak when Mac Jones was a rookie, won 7 in a row, and Cleveland came to town with Myles Garrett. And in the first quarter and a half, they ran more things at Myles Garrett than they did away. And next thing I know, I looked up in the scoreboard, New England's up almost 30. So it's not just, that doesn't mean A to B equals C, but they were able to neutralize a great pass rusher like that. Kellen Moore is going to try and do the same thing here.
And for our viewers, they remember all the times the Eagles have tried to do that with Micah Parsons, and that's when you have Lane Johnson going up against Micah Parsons. So you want to try and do that certainly in this game with Fred Johnson going up against Hendrickson. My last question for you, Charles, then we'll get you out of here. Looking at Jalen Hurts, we talked a lot about it on the show this week. What's your take on Jalen and what you've seen, not just over the course of this season as a whole, but certainly over these last game or two as well?
We saw the absolute zenith in the Super Bowl against Kansas City when he's probably the best player on the field that day. Like he was amazing. And things have not stayed at that level, and it's always hard to do. But they haven't dropped totally off the cliff, as some people would lead you to believe. Like when you watch it, I'm like, people are telling me this is the worst thing. It's not. But it's hard to hit those heights. But I feel like the last couple of weeks, the consistency is starting to come back a little bit. But the consistency now, Fran, has to pay off on third down, because we're talking about both of these teams that are so good offensively, or have the players to be so good offensively. How you throw a 1 and 13, on the board on third down, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I do realize that some of those third downs with Philadelphia are run to get to fourth down.
Sure.
So I'll take some of those away. But the numbers don't really match up. You really don't want to get there and make that your steady diet. Hey, let's go for it on fourth down. That's just, I know that's their MO in terms of being aggressive, but you want to have that as kind of your whole card. You don't want to have that as the first thing that you play out of the deck. And that's what they got to get figured out. And the funny part is Cincinnati's going through the same thing. These offenses are really good, but for whatever reason, they're not converting on third down. Fran, let's be honest about it. If you said Cincinnati and Philadelphia, their offenses, where would you rank them on third downs when the season's all done? You'd say both easily, safely in the top 10, pushing for the top 5. It doesn't, because of the way they run offense, the offensive minds, the people playing quarterback. Right now, both of them struggling to figure it out.
It's so interesting, the issues surrounding both teams and the strengths with both teams. Very, very similar on both sides. And the quarterbacks, they look very, very talented. They go about it in different ways, but the duality of that, I think, is one of the more interesting themes for Sunday. Charles, we're going to let you go because you got to get on a flight to Philly. But thanks so much for joining us here on the PHLY Eagles show, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks a lot, Fran. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all the time. And you're right about these quarterbacks. One of them has 57 NFL starts. The other has 59. They are attached at the hip, and both of them are central to their teams wanting to win ball games.
We all silly like the mayor.